I had finally lost all sense of time. I no longer knew how long we had been in here. I had also grown quite accustomed to digging. By this time, I had managed to dig quite far into the wall. The tunnel had come far enough that we could no longer see the end of it with the pen light.
どんなもんだ?
Okay. Yes. There are traces of someone having dug through here before. It's getting more fragile as I go too. The prisoner had told us to just dig a little further before he had died. If that were true, then we were almost there. I'll call it quits for today.
大丈夫か?
Are you? I was beginning to feel the effects of what I had been putting my body through. I covered the hole with the clay cover we had made. Calamity arrived as soon as I collapsed on the floor in exhaustion. I could hear footsteps on the other side of the door. They were coming down the stairs. She's here. I lay face down on the floor. I wouldn't be able to explain why my clothes were so dirty unless I pretended to sleep in this position. Saburo, I'm counting on you.
ああ、天帝の注意を引いてみせる。
Mina-san. I wanted her to sit in front of the cover, as I had previously explained, but she didn't respond. Mina-san.
はい。でも、ケンちゃんはどうすれば？
ケンは俺が預かる。
わかりました。
I could hear hurried movements coming from above me. Hurry! I crossed my fingers in my head. The iron door swung open slowly. Mina-san had apparently moved in from front of the wall as I had instructed. Hozuki spoke.
何やら慌ただしかったようだが。
I rolled around in the dirt a bit and rose up.
なんだ、ひどい顔だな。
She smiled.
天帝、頼みがあるんだがな。
ん？
俺の女いるだろ、子持ちの。そいつ元気かね。よかったら連絡取りたいんだが。
お前が心の底から私に服従を誓うなら許そう。
そりゃできねえよ。天帝は俺のダチをかなり殺したからな。
Saburo did his job of distracting Hozuki's attention. I took a quick look at Mina-san. She was huddled up.
顔色が悪いな。寒いのか？震えているぞ。
病気っぽい。死んじゃうよ、俺。
Hozuki didn't even honor Mina-san with a single glance. Well, did you come to check up on us again? Hozuki nodded.
疲労困憊を極めて、そろそろ仲違いを始める頃かと思ってな。
Hozuki suddenly looked at Mina-san. Our escape route was right behind her. I quickly spoke up. You're right. There's a sort of invisible wall between Mina-san and I right now. Hozuki turned to me with the light in her eyes. She's changed ever since you locked her up in here and started beating her. My intent was to put on an act. With her doing nothing but complaining, I might not be able to maintain my feelings for her forever. I found my lips oddly loose.
才華が変わったのではない。それが本性なのだ。
I shook my head. I still have no intention of surrendering to you.
なるほど。才華ミーナはともかく、樋口の友人として無理か。
うちのマチャオミはクールだが中身は熱い野郎でね。
では部下に命じて樋口の看病をさせよう。そうすれば阿久津は私の言うことを聞いてくれるのかな？
Well, I didn't know how to respond.
どうした？約束は守ろう。樋口は必ず回復させるぞ。そうしなければ阿久津は逆上して今度こそ私に従わなくなるだろうからな。
That's true. I was bewildered. A yell from Saburo brought me back to my senses.
ふざけるなよ、ほおずき。お前に助けられるなんて死んでもごめんだ。
Saburo had lost his cool. A deep-seated anger from witnessing his friend's murders was beginning to well up.
なさおみもくだらねえ取引しようとするな。
Yeah. I wanted to apologize to him. Accepting Hozuki's proposal would mean playing right into her hand.
まあ、よく考えるのだな。
Enough.
私もそうだった。牢獄に閉じ込められ苦楽を共にした友人があまりの不衛生に高熱を出し命を失うところだった。だから頼み込んで友人を助けてもらった。妥協ではない。憎い連中に敗北したわけではないのだと自分に言い聞かせながらな。もちろん友人は樋口のように助けを拒んだ。だがどうにもならなかった。敵に屈服した私は実に格好が悪いが、ともかく友人の命は救った。
And you think I'm gonna believe all your bullshit after all this time? Her tone held admonishment. I calmly rebuted. And what happened to your friend after they were saved?
鋭いな。
She glared at me.
私と絶交したよ。しばらくは特別高等人として働いていたが、後に秘密結社を作って内乱を目論んだ。現在は海外に逃亡している。
だそうだ正臣。天帝の言うこと聞いたら絶好だぜ。
I know that.
しかし心根の優しい阿久津が耐えられるかな。
She laughed quietly and turned her back to us.
ではな、こちらは焦らずじっくりとやらせてもらおう。
She reached for the door. Thank God she didn't uncover our escape plan. What?
ほおずき先生、
What the hell are you doing? Why the hell would you attract Hosuke's attention right as we were about to get away with it? I wanted to scream that our last hope was hiding right behind her.
なんだ、またわがまましようというのか。
Hosuke seemed disinterested, apparently having already lost all interest in Minasan.
清潔なタオルと熱いお湯をいただけませんか？
何？
体を拭きたいんです。それから紙とペンをください。詩を書きたいんです。あと食事ももう少し増やしてください。とても足りません。
Both Hosuke and I were dumbfounded at her sudden outburst. Minasan? Had the conditions been too much for her? Had she lost her mind?
私がお前の要望を叶えてやるなどと考えているのか？
お願いします。
Her legs were shaking. She looked up at Hosuke.
詩を書きたいだと？
はい。
あれだけ殴られたのに、禁止されているのに、そのせいで阿久津に迷惑をかけたというのに。
Minasan nodded silently.
不思議すぎる。理由を聞きたいのだが。
Minasan replied quietly.
なんだかいい詩が書けそうで。
ほう。
ここでの生活でちょっとだけ分かったことがあるような気がして、今まで着るものや食べるものに困ったことないですし、生まれた時からお姫様みたいに扱われて、学園の皆さんにもちやほやされてましたから、わからなかったんです。だから移民音楽のそやで荒々しい感じがわからなかったんです。
She giggled.
私、今まで人に嫌われないための詩を書いてたんだなって。だから私、誰かのために誰かに訴えるような、喜んでもらえるような。
Her sudden mood shift was a bit eerie.
ふてぶてしいにも程がある。
A violent light shone in Hosuke's eyes.
でもあなたも私 私たちと同じような境遇を経験しているのでしょ。だったら私たちの気持ちも分かってくれるはず。
Hozuki interrupted Mina-san with a backhand.
お前たちの気持ちがわかるからこそ同じ目に合わせてやりたくなるのではないか。先輩が後輩に偉そうに同じ苦労を味わわせてやるからこそ組織が成り立つのだ。
You know, that's actually kind of true in a way. Ooh. That's actually kind of true. Because I went through the same thing, you have to went through the same thing too. What a fucked up way of thinking. She grabbed Mina-san by the collar.
わかったか。
Mina-san's eyes were swollen with tears. She was forced into a sitting position. Hozuki kicked Mina-san away and turned around once more.
もし次に妙な真似をしたら殺してやる。
The door shut. I rushed over to Mina-san. Her eyes were red with tears. However, the first words to come out of my mouth were not words of concern for her. Why did you call out to Hozuki like that?
すみません。
It is very important that you sit there quietly. Otherwise, Hozuki will discover our escape tunnel.
でもあの人は私のことが大嫌いみたいで、私が生意気なことを言えば私に注目してくれるかなと思って。
Huh? My eyes widened. You actually put some thought into your actions?
いえ、よく考えていたわけではないのですが。
Oh my god. Which is it? My verbal onslaught frightened her.
わかりません。ただ詩を書きたくてつい。
I closed my eyes and sighed.
正臣、その辺にしておけよ。
I know. I don't think she meant any harm. But that didn't excuse it. If this escape plan failed, it would be the end for us. Wrong. Wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. Why would you even think that this escape plan of yours was gonna succeed? It wasn't. It was clearly a trap. Why didn't she just listen to what I said? She was selfish. I'm going to start digging again. I needed to hurry. A voice. A voice carried through my tired, misty consciousness. It seemed I had dozed off against the wall. I slowly raised my head. After seeing who the voice belonged to, I turned pale.
何をしている？
I immediately tried to set myself upright, but it was already too late.
動くな！
I could feel cold iron against my forehead.
あの壁は何だ？
Ugh.
何だと聞いている。
I spoke purely out of reflex. What are you talking about? I knew it was useless to play dumb at this point. Mina-san interjected from the side, delivering the finishing blow.
言います。正直に言いますから、殴らないでください。
God damn it! Mina-san?
穴です。穴を掘って逃げようとしていたところなんです。
I could tell that my own limbs were shaking. An all too easy defeat. An all too simple betrayal.
許してください、正臣さん。でも、もう無理ですよ。どうにもならないんです。私、正臣さんのお役に立ちたかったんですけど、これでも頑張ってたつもりなんですけど。
And so she apologized once again.
お姫様でもなんで でもなくて、生まれついて弱虫なんです。
Mina-san! I shouted. I shouted out of hatred. Was I mistaken? Hosuke's laughter reached my ears. Was it wrong to fall in love with this person?
すみません。すみません。
I felt like I was going to go insane. I let the despair take over and simply wailed. My view distorted with sorrow. Distorted. I stretched my arms out toward Mina-san. I might have been trying to strangle her. But for some reason, she was smiling just as she had when we first met. The last words to reach my ears were strange ones, carried on a strange rhythm. It was almost like poetry. The sight of Saburo leaning against the iron door, asleep, entered my vision. I gulped. There was no sign of the gun that had been pointed at me or Hosuke herself. I took a deep breath and exhaled. I felt the chilly clay wall at my back. After wiping away the sweat dripping down my side, I finally regained my senses. It was a dream. I hesitantly turned my head. Our eyes met.
起こしてしまいましたか？
Huh? She was cradling Ken, apparently relaxed. Did you do something?
はい。
What? I slowly approached her. I couldn't get that nightmare out of my mind.
ペンがないもので。
What? I raised my voice.
ケンちゃん、なんだか楽しそうなんです。
What are you talking about?
ニコニコと笑ってくれるんです。
What is it? What did you do? My words were intense. Mina-san replied, a sad sort of smile on her face.
血を口ずさんでいたんです。
I couldn't speak.
私、気づいたんです。ケンちゃんがなんであんまり泣いたり笑ったりしないのか。
Mina-san gently patted Ken.
きっと私と同じなんです。私と同じで周りに気を使ってばかりで自分のしたいことができないんです。せっかく生まれてきたのにお父さんもお母さんもいなくて知らない人に育てられててどうしていいのかわからないんです。
That's ridiculous. There was no way a newborn possessed the cognitive ability to distinguish the people around him as strangers or not. You know that's not the case.
いいえ、きっとそうです。本能で感じ取るんです。泣いたりわめいたりしないで私たちに迷惑をかけないようにしてるんです。
Impossible.
かわいそう。かわいそうなケンちゃん。でもありがとうね。私の死で喜んでくれて。私とても嬉しいよ。
Was it just my imagination that her eyes seemed dead? Poetry?
ええ。
You can still do that sort of thing?
どういう意味です？
I'm just surprised you can act so carefree in a place as gloomy as this. I knew my words were tinged with spite, but I couldn't help it. If you want to write it that badly, why don't you pick up a rock and use that? We were in the midst of a life and death crisis. What use would our sensitivity be to everyone now?
私、皆さんの役に立ちたいです。
Yes, I know.
ケンちゃんと樋口さんと正臣さんの。
Yes, I understand. I understand your feelings. So please, just do as I tell you. To sit in front of the covered hole when Hozuki comes in. That's all. If you can't even do that much, we have a problem. Just keep your mouth closed next time. You're better off just staying quiet.
頑張ります。
I sat down holding my head. I closed my eyes. After some time, I heard a singing voice drifting through the darkness. The lyrics seemed arranged, but perhaps that was a problem on my end. Eventually, however, a bright sort of whine mixed in with it. Occasionally it would grow in pitch and volume. I found the sound somehow affirming. I heard Ken's laughter for the first time.
Masaomi, 大丈夫か?
I heard a voice call to me from the entrance of the tunnel. Honestly, this was draining. My sight was starting to dim and my arms were shaking. My lungs ached every time I inhaled the dark, musty air of the prison. I'm fine.
変わろうか?
No, there's just a bit more.
どうしてわかる?
I can feel some sort of mechanical vibrations through the dirt. There's no doubt the boiler room is beyond here.
出口は近そうだな。
Yes, just a little more. The composition of the wall had changed though. I had been running into hard rocks and the spoon seemed on the verge of collapse. A stinging sensation began to run through my arm. Damn it. This was probably the result of overexerting myself. I heard the sound of Hozuki's footsteps as I was holding my arm.
Masaomi!
She's here, eh? I shot into action. I'd practiced this procedure many times. First, I left the spoon I was using in the tunnel. Next, I tried to fit the cover on top of the hole as best I could, I think. The sound of Hozuki descending the stairs gradually grew louder and louder. Then, in order to cover up as many cracks as possible, Saburo and I patted down as much dirt into the edges as time afforded us. The footsteps approached. That's all the time we have. The footsteps grew even louder still. I signaled to Saburo with my chin and lay down on the floor, covering my body with dirt. I peeked at the tunnel entrance. I cursed, but it was already too late. You would realize the problem immediately if you examine it closely. There was a gaping cavity. There was a gap between the cover we had made and the rest of the wall that you could see even at the distance. Poor camouflage to say the least. The only thing left to do was attempt to have Minasan hide the hole with her body. It'd be great if she could do even just that. But what on earth was she doing? I wanted to scream. I could scarcely help but recall my nightmare earlier. Hozuki's footsteps came to a halt. She was already on the other side of the door. Sorry. I heard Minasan groan. Typo. I heard the sound of breathing and rustling. She seemed to have stumbled. The door was going to open, and she wasn't in front of the hole. As the tension reached its climax, I found myself strangely calm. It was clear that we were in trouble. The beating of my heart rang almost painfully in my ears. Should we make our last stand now? Launch an attack on Hozuki as soon as she opens the door? She would almost certainly fire her gun at us. The door creaked. The sound of rusty iron slowly echoed throughout the prison. What should I do? Why was Minasan being so slow? Why? Was the task I had given her really that difficult? Hurry! Please hurry. Minasan. Minasan! God damn it. Ken suddenly began crying. Had he sensed danger instinctively? I could hear Hozuki's breathing.
よー、テンテ。結構久しぶりだな。また会えて嬉しいっすよ。
Saburo tried to distract Hozuki, as per our usual plan.
あんまり俺らを合格させるのが遅いから、 役目を解かれたんじゃねえかと思ってたところなんだ。
Hosuke laughed through her nose.
阿久津は寝ているのか。
ちょい病気がちみたいだぜ。天帝の大好きなマソミが死んだらどうすんだよ。
この程度で死ぬならそれまでの男だったということだ。
Suddenly, pain ran through my back.
おいおい、人を踏むんじゃねえよ。
起きろ阿久津。
Ugh.
ギャーギャーとよくわめくな。
She was talking about Ken apparently.
サイカミーナ。
I could tell from the direction of her voice that Mina-san was not in front of the hole.
聞こえないのか。
Mina-san didn't respond. Was she paralyzed with fear? I slowly sat up. What seems to be the problem? Hosuke was having none of our usual banter.
とぼけても無駄だ。あれはなんだ。
She jerked her head to the side. Huh?
あの壁を見ろ。
I bit my lip.
この後に及んでふざけた真似を。
A sense of defeat crawled up my back.
貴様らは私の手のひらで踊っていればいいのに。
So this was it. Fortunately, Hosuke was alone. If we all went at her at once, we could probably end this without sacrificing anyone except myself. I prepared myself and stared at Hosuke.
やめるんだ。
Something wasn't right.
はい。
Her low voice, filled with bloodlust, was not directed at me.
はい。
Her frosty eyes were not turned toward me. Ken continued his frenzied crying. Is that why I didn't notice it? I could hear a scraping sound beneath his crying. It was coming from behind me.
理不尽な炎。自由さえ奪われ。
She was reading out a series of strange phrases.
貴様、いい加減にしろ。
The person she was speaking to paid her no heed whatsoever.
いい加減にしろと言ってるのが聞こえんのか。
Before I could turn around, Hosuke's roaring tore through the prison.
うるさいガキだな。
Ken ceased his crying, terrified of the witch before him. The sound of scraping came to a stop as well. Her voice was a little shaky. However, it was obvious that her voice did not tremble out of fear. I began to realize my mistake. Mina-san was a coward, yes.
毛布を一枚。
She had trouble forming the words.
いただけませんか。毛布を一枚。
Mina-san had been beaten by Hosuke after asking that. Why hadn't I seen it back then? Was she not putting herself on the line to protect our child? Did she not curl up around Ken's body when she was knocked to the floor so that he could not be struck? And hadn't she been asking for a blanket for Ken's sake to beg to begin with? I was overcome with a feeling of guilt. Mina-san was not in front of the crevice. She had not acted in accordance with my instructions. But that cover had never served as well as camouflage. She must have acted in accordance with that knowledge. More than anything, could a person who only thought of herself have such pure eyes? Yes, I had certainly been mistaken, but not in the way Hosuke meant.
許されると思っているのか。
Hosuke's tone was filled with aggravation.
次は殺すと言ったはずだ。
Hosuke struck out at Mina-san with all of her might. The handle of her gun struck against Mina-san's beautiful face. Her head shook with the impact. When she looked back up, Her face was still just as beautiful. She continued to speak as if nothing had happened. I couldn't move a muscle. Saburo, too, was frozen in place. For a moment, I couldn't even identify who the voice belonged to. It was low, sharp, and was even a bit vulgar. Beyond all else, though, it held an unrivaled nobility.
黙れ。ゲロ
I could only read the kanji on the last one. That was like Kimi, which is you. I caught my breath, completely astonished. I thought that she wasn't even able to look at this woman in the eyes. I thought she could do nothing more than tremble in fear. Regardless of what I thought, I saw it before me.
下がりなさい。
I saw her rebuking one beneath her with the utmost dignity. For the first time I saw it. I saw her true face.
それ以上の非道は許しませんよ。
Saika Mina had finally had enough.
貴様
Kozuki was in a state of complete confusion. She muttered something in a dry, expressionless voice. Mina ignored Hozuki and continued moving her right arm. She was holding a sharpened rock tightly in her small hand.
誰か来い
Kozuki suddenly directed a dark shout toward the entrance. Men immediately descended the stairs.
何事でしょうか
Kozuki directed the agents with the look of a beast in her eyes.
阿久津と樋口を取り押さえておけ
The muscular men seemed surprised.
早くしろ
In response to a roar, the agents came barreling at Saburo and me all at once. They pinned Saburo against the ground. I managed to regain my senses, but I was unable to move. They restrained both of my arms. One of the men pinioned me. I had an idea of what was about to happen. Stop this, Hozuki! Hozuki launched a kick at Minasan's arm. Her face blue with anger. The stone she was using to carve the wall with shook, disturbing the character she had been writing.
痛いだろうどれだけ素晴らしい詩が頭に浮かんでいても痛みからは逃れられんぞ
She struck again. This time on her shoulder. The impact tore her uniform, exposing her red swollen skin.
怖いだろう本当は怖いのだろう強気に振る舞ってみせているがただ格好をつけているだけなのだろう
Hozuki recovered herself with each further word. However, Minasan's hand would not stop.
怖いですよ。
She spoke dimly.
私はとても臆病です。あなたに殴られるのは怖いです。痛いです。本当は今すぐにでもひれ伏して許しを請いたいくらいです。
She spoke calmly, continuing to etch letters into the wall.
でもこれ以上嫌われたくないんです。正臣さんに、大好きな正臣さんに。だから少しくらい格好つけるんです。弱くても少しくらい役に立ちたいんです。
And so, regardless of the pain inflicted upon her, she remained resolute. Her fingers did not budge from the stone. Hozuki began pounding her relentlessly. Hozuki probably couldn't comprehend what was happening here. She was simply desperate to break someone's mind through force. She showered blows upon Minasan, not only with her gun, but with her shoulders and fist as well. But it was all futile. Minasan gritted her teeth and forced herself to endure it.
怖くない。怖くないぞ。
She was strong.
頑張らなきゃ。頑張らなきゃ。
The girl who had admitted her weakness was so incredibly strong.
頑張って正臣さんの役に立たなきゃ。
I shouted at the top of my lungs. I struggled with all of my might. Didn't I tell you to stop? Get away from her. Get away from Mina-san. The man's grip on my neck loosened, but another man was quick to grab hold of my head, and finally drag me to the ground. Hosuke bellowed as my head began to go red from the impact.
それ以上くだらん詩などを書くのであれば貴様は死ぬしかないぞ。
Rage warped her usually calm expression.
そうだ、死だ。
それは
She cast a sharp look at Hosuke while panting raggedly.
それはやりたいこともできずに生きながら得るのとどちらが幸せなのでしょうか。私が私であることがそんなにいけないことなんでしょうか。
Her voice possessed the power to vanquish the stagnant air of the prison. I felt dizzy. What an idiot I had been. A princess brought up in the Saika house. A wonderful woman like this had fallen in love with someone like me. Why did I doubt her? Why didn't I support her more? Why can't I help her right now? Let me go. Release me. My neck and temple were pulsating violently. I didn't care. I didn't care if my blood vessels burst or my vocal cords collapsed, if it meant saving Mina-san from the hands of these scum. I abandoned myself to the flames of indignation bellowing up inside me and roared. Both of my arms were being restrained and twisted behind me as far as they could go. But I could still use my legs. I put all of my strength into my legs. I dragged the men on my back along with me. My teeth ground against one another. I groaned through the cracks in my clenched teeth and approached Hosuke. Stop! Don't touch her!
黙れ!
Shock ran through the back of my head. I saw sparks. My very brain shook. My jaw hit the floor. I could barely move my limbs. It was like I was under anesthesia. I was on the brink of unconsciousness, but I forced myself to keep my eyes open.
どれだけ暴力を振るわれようとも
Her pale arm was smeared with blood.
この死が訴えがどれだけ陳腐なものでも誰にどう嘲笑われてもケンちゃんだけは楽しんでくれたんです。だから
I could tell even from a distance just how much strength she was putting into her fingertips.
この石だけは離さない離すものか
That's enough. Just stop already. Just cry and beg for forgiveness. These people love it when things go their way. Why do you continue to resist them? Why can't you be a little less honest? Why do you continue to rise up after being knocked to the ground and trampled upon? This was an unwise course of action. Why is everything you do incomprehensible to me? I could hear voices. Saburo and Ken screaming. Hosuke's roaring. Eventually, all sounds became distant. The sound of Mina-san breathing. The sound of her calling my name. I wanted to call her name as well.
これでいいんですよね。これで少しは 役に立てましたかね。
I cursed myself as my consciousness dimmed. I cursed the fact that I was too powerless to protect the woman I loved, as she was being assaulted before my very eyes.
すみません。
I was greeted by the stagnant air, the cold soil, a crying baby, and the prison I was so used to seeing. The demon who had practiced violence upon a non-resisting woman had left. I slowly returned to my senses.
正臣、気づいたか？
Saburo was staring into my face. He was covered in bruises. There was a cut on his lip, and his eyelids were split and swollen. Mina-san! I immediately shot up and shouted. I searched around the room, ignoring my raging headache. My eyes fell upon the mud wall. Our escape route was safe. So many people had entered, and not one of them had noticed it. And that was all thanks to her. Ah. She lay sprawled against the wall, bearing the poetry she had risked her life to write. I nervously moved closer to her. I closed my eyes. I took her hand. Mina-san. I could feel her warmth, but she offered me no response. Mina-san. Mina-san. I called to her again. All I heard in response was ominous breathing. It sounded as if it were coming from crushed lungs. Blood bubbled out from her lips as she lay wheezing and unconscious. She's alive. I couldn't take it any longer. I squeezed her hand while calling her name. This is all because of me. Tears poured out from behind my closed eyelids. I had told her I would protect her. But look at her now. Her breathing seemed liable to stop at any moment. What had she done wrong? Just what crime had this girl committed?
正臣、
Don't you say a word. I shouted at him. Like a fool, I took my anger out on a friend. Sorry.
いや、俺も何もできなかった。
I caught my breath and started thinking. What should I do? How can I save her life? All thoughts of my own safety and of promotion had vanished from my mind. I just wanted to save her. She would almost certainly require some sort of major surgery. A country town like this would not possess the equipment for that. Our only choice was to cross the border, but after some while, I opened my mouth. I'm thinking of following Hozuki.
ふざけるな！
Saburo looked like he had been expecting me to say that. Use your head. Why do you think she didn't kill Mina-san? My heart ached. I could hardly believe myself. Reasoning through the things calmly while the woman I love was on the brink of death. She intends to keep Mina-san alive, so I'll follow her. Hozuki wants me to surrender her in exchange for Mina-san's life.
そして、お前は特別高等人になるってのか？ほ月正臣として。ミーナちゃんがどう思うかね。
I thought back to the conversation we had when we first met. She told me my name was wonderful. I heard a hoarse voice from below.
です。正臣さん、あの人に負けないって。私はいいです。私は。
She hadn't regained consciousness. She was muttering desperately in the midst of her delirium. I held my head. Even an amateur could tell. If we just left her like this, she would surely die.
私はいいです。いいですから。お父さんとお母さんを大事に。
She had risked being caught violating the law so that she could write poetry for my parents. Despite not even knowing them, she wrote poetry for the sake of my worthless father and selfish mother. Eventually, she settled back into silence. Let us dig. We would dig through the tunnel, evade the public security agents, escape the school, cross the border, and take Mina-san to a doctor. A rash plan at best, and certainly not a logical decision. She must have influenced me without me realizing it. Influenced me with that foolish courage of hers. The spoon fell apart soon after starting to dig, so I threw it away and continued digging with my fingernails. My nails were quick to begin peeling off. Stabbing pain ran through my fingertips. But I had no time to worry about pain, hunger, or fatigue. I had to hurry. Mina-san's life was on the line. I could no longer afford to worry about when Hosuke would make her next appearance. Saburo continued his job of disposing of the soil, accompanied by Ken's piercing cries. Saburo himself did not seem to be in good shape, as he would occasionally bend over and lapse into a coughing fit.
まだか?
I removed a large rock in front of me. As I did so, a light breeze caressed my forehead. Some rubble that had been lining the stone collapsed. The color of the stone that had been worn from exposure to the other side. It seemed to be white calcium hydroxide, material used for plaster walls, meaning that beyond here lay a different room. I had finally reached the end. We made it. Saburo joined me in an exclamation of delight. I turned around and left the tunnel. We did it. Saburo didn't seem too enthused. He was probably exhausted. We're getting out of here. I ran over to Mina-san, who was now lying face up. Mina-san, hang in there just a little longer. She opened her eyes. Just forming the words caused her terrible pain. It'll be okay. We'll get out of here and leave peacefully. Just the two of us. Oh, that's right. You wanted to see a movie, didn't you? I've never been to a recreational place like a movie theater before. So will you teach me all about it? I kept talking to her in order to keep her from losing consciousness. I couldn't quell the fear that if she closed her eyes once more, she would never open them again. Alright, let's get out of this boring place. There was scenery more fitting for this girl. Yes? I nodded strongly. Summer had already passed us by, but the sunflowers in this town were surely still reaching boldly toward the sun. Let's go. I urged Saburo onward.
Nah.
What is it? Come on, hurry up.
いや、ちょっと嫌な予感が走ったもんでな。
I know that your intuition is sharp, but you don't exactly have much choice other than to escape from here.
そうだけどさ。
What are you hesitating for? Come on, Saburo. Hurry up and get Ken. I started to get irritated.
いや、天帝は本当に俺たちの脱出計画に気づいてないのかなと思ってさ。
Mina-san groaned in pain. Her lovely lips were covered in blood. Hurry up! What are you stalling for? Saburo! I was almost ready to hit him. Saburo nodded hesitantly, taken off guard by my violent attitude.
分かったよ。お前を信じる。
He had made up his mind. I'm counting on you. We hastily set our plan of action into motion. I silenced Ken's crying and picked up Minasan carefully. Minasan, I'm sorry that you had to be locked up in a place like this. I'm sorry that you were wounded so grievously because of me. Just a little longer. If we get out of here safely, I'll do whatever you want me to. I bent my knees and crawled onto the floor. I offered a prayer to nothing in particular and awaited the moment of our escape. I ignored Saburo's warning, not concerning myself with Hosuke in the slightest. The noise on the stairs grew louder, then came to a halt. A woman dressed in a suit opened the door with a creak and entered the prison. Many times now, Hosuke Ari had come to check on them, only to be greeted with their exasperating foolishness. But this time was different. Within the narrow prison, one could tell at a glance. Her foolish captives were no longer there. A sneer formed on her face.
ようやく壁に穴を開けてくれたか。
She laughed and laughed.
よく考えればわかることだったのにな。なぜ樋口のスプーンを没収しなかったのか。なぜわざわざ囚人を連れてきて脱出口を匂わすような発言を許したのか。
It had all been an act. Passing the prisoner's murder off as an accident in a moment of panic was simply another component of Hosuke Ari's trap.
確かにあの穴は学園のボイラー室につながっている。だがボイラー室を出た先には武装させた部下を配置している。
Man, shut the fuck up. She strode confidently over to the open hole and peeked inside.
奴らはまた牢獄に逆戻り。また絶望を味わう。また思い知る。私にはかなわないのだと。これでいい。こうやって期待しては絶望させ、心を砕いていこう。サイカミーナもあの傷では助かるまい。責任感の強い阿久津が自分のせいだとわめき立てる姿が目に浮かぶ。壁に穴を掘っていることなど最初から気づいていたさ。まったくもって無駄死にだったな。
Her dark laughter dispersed throughout the room once more.
そもそもあの臆病な女はただやけを起こしただけだ。私に歯向かい血を流しながら正義を見せつけたつもりだろうが、結局暴力の前にはどうにもならなかった。あんな茶番を、あんな女を強いとかいう人間はよほどの子供かおとぎ話が好きなのだろうな。
Raising her voice like that meant she had reached the height of her overconfidence. Her laughing suddenly grew softer. I could tell Hosuke had swallowed her breath. Within this rotten, stinking prison, not a soul should have remained. Who had spoken out? Try saying that one more time. The voice was tinged with a stinging wrath. And of course, that voice belonged to me. You were overconfident. My movement was swift. Hosuke had time to assume a defensive posture, but I didn't allow her time to turn around.
なんだと?
The confidence had disappeared from Hosuke's voice. It's only natural that you'll escape through a hole you dig, right?
逃げたのではなく
Precisely.
死体のふりをしていたのだと?
The dead prisoner. I had done his blood-stained clothes and waited for Hosuke to appear. You're right. We did think it was strange. Why didn't you take the spoon? Why didn't you notice the hole? Why Why did the prisoner give us a hint? Honestly, the fact that neither Saburo nor myself was restrained to begin with was suspicious enough. It had to be some sort of trick. Being brazen enough to come here by yourself was a result of your overconfidence and the single biggest factor in your defeat.
樋口たちはボイラー室か。
Together with the corpse, yes. Kosuke's small shoulders trembled.
ありえん。すべて読まれていたというのか。こんな劣悪な状況で空腹と疲労は極みに達し、自分の女が死にかけている。そんな状況で冷静に考えをまとめられるはずが。
I informed the dismayed foreign woman of the current circumstances. Unfortunately for you, this is reality. Kosuke bit her lip, ashamed of her own words. So what are you going to do? I'm quite confident I can break your neck faster than you can draw your gun. Kosuke showed no signs of resisting. She likely understood it would prove futile.
私を人質にして州境を越えるつもりだな。
A sharp wit indeed, and she clicked her tongue. Let's go. I grabbed Kosuke's arm from behind. I took her shoulder and pulled at the joint. I could hear the sound of her bone tearing. Her right arm dangled uselessly.
やってくれるな。
Vicious. Fury devoured my inside. You witch. Do you not understand how I feel right now? I know that you do. I'll not have you say that you do not. This witch had harmed my beloved. I'm positively aching to kill you right now. I took Kosuke's gun and pointed it at her. After some time, Saburo came out of the tunnel with Minasan. He went back into the tunnel and came back with Ken.
やったな。
How's Minasan?
マサオミさん。
She opened her eyes weakly. She tried to smile at me. I could not detect any life in her expression. Let's go. I'll carry Minasan. You take Ken and the gun.
わかった。任せろ。
He pointed the gun at Hozuki. Just then, Hozuki's subordinates came crashing into the room.
ほずき先生。
They were visibly shaken by the situation. Some of them had their hands at their guns. Draw your guns and your superior here is as good as dead. I'm sure you don't want to be responsible for that. He's a special high-class individual and a member of the esteemed Hozuki name. Just try and imagine what sort of punishment that would result in. My threat provided results. These men were nothing more than lost sheep without a shepherd. They looked at each other before stepping back. Hozuki fell silent and stared down at the barrel of the gun.
抵抗はせん。
She muttered.
だが、悪強。
Her words had no spirit, as if whatever had been possessing her had fled from her body.
それでも、お前は我々の手からは逃れられん運命にある。
I will simply have to bend the rails of that fate. Hozuki shut her eyes. I did not know whether it was an act of confidence or resignation.
どうかな。やってみるがいい。
We slowly headed for the door.
どけ。こういう事態も想定していた。
The perplexed-looking agent stepped back as we advanced. She had accounted for this? I had no idea what to expect. But whatever happened, we had to advance. We left the prison, making Hozuki march in front of us.
マサオミさん。
Whatever happens, I will save this girl. We treaded on toward the border. Hozuki walked ahead without even turning around. It was the first time we had been outdoors in quite some time. The night wind was a bit chilly, but the rough breath pounding against my cheek was quite warm. Mina-san was slumped against my back. Mina-san. Mina-san. I called out to her again and again. We're almost there. Just a little more. I tried to talk to her as much as possible. You're hungry, aren't you? I am too. I can't wait to eat the mushrooms you cook. I held a one-sided conversation on a stupid topic.
キノコは嫌ですよ。
Don't talk.
平気です。平気ですよ。
Please.
正臣さんとお話ししたいんです。今のうちに。
Well, you still can. Her lips shivered.
夜ですよね。
Huh? Yeah, it is. God, don't tell me her eyes were.
虫の音が綺麗ですね。秋が近いですね。
I wouldn't understand something like that.
お月様はまん丸ですかね。風が吹いてひまわりを優しく撫でているんですかね。
I didn't pick up on things like that. Despite that, I responded instinctively. It's a beautiful summer night. The cries of the insects are vibrant and the moon is... almost as beautiful as you are. It was cheesy. Miserably cheesy. I tried to cover for it. I'm sorry. I really could use a page out of your book when it comes to this sort of thing.
嬉しいですよ。
Really? She laughed, showing me the same smile she had when we first met. We had come pretty far through the sunflower field. Perhaps this was even the area where we had met.
ケンちゃんは
He's fine. Saburo has him.
大丈夫かな。泣いてませんか。
He's sound asleep. He must be quite the big shot, being able to sleep while this goes on.
大切に育ててあげてくださいね。
Her voice suddenly went hoarse. What are you talking about? He's your child too, isn't he? Then you'll raise him together with me. Please answer me, Mina-san. I came to a halt, panicked. You'll make Ken smile with your poetry, and I'll be standing right by you two, clueless as to what it means. I felt miserable. Well, doesn't it sound fun? How about we live together? I don't mind if it's just some cheap apartment. I guess it might be a little hard on someone raised as a princess, though. I felt miserable with myself for not being able to come up with something decent to say. I continued to converse nervously with the girl on my back, unable to make my beloved smile. Perhaps my words were prayers.
さあ、おみさん。
Yes, what is it?
私、よかったです。正臣さんに告白できて、お付き合いいただけて。
What? I was stunned. I couldn't form the words to respond.
正臣さんはとても優しいです。ちょっと冷たそうに見えることもありますが、本当は
I stayed silent, not knowing the meaning behind her words.
許してくださいました。私の嘘を隠れて詩を書いていた裏切りを
I kept my silence.
誰からも好かれようとして空回っているだけの私を好きだとおっしゃってくれました。
I was silent.
おかげで最後に思いのままに詩をかけて自分というものをしっかりと感じられたような気がします。
Silence.
ありがとうございました。短い間でしたけど。
I couldn't take staying silent any longer. We have plenty of time after this. My emotions leapt from my throat. Just what did I do? What on earth was I able to do for you? I could not control myself. I rebuked myself violently, tempestuously. Is that a word? I doubted you. I despised your weakness even while confessing my love to you. And worst of all, I couldn't bring myself to believe in you. I wanted to be condemned. I wanted to atone in some way. If I could, I would take her place. I would sell my soul to God or the devil. It didn't matter. As long as it meant saving her. Please tell me. Just what is it that I was able to do for you? There was no response. I was the one doing all the shouting. Mina-san. Thinking back on it, I had never really attempted to guide her. I just let her be. I hadn't aided her with her rehabilitation. I had abandoned her in the prison, and now I would be responsible for her death. She had never needed my assistance. She was strong to begin with. She spat out a breath. It smelled of blood. I could barely hear her. Mina-san was trying to say something. I trembled in unease as I deciphered the words she was forming with her lips. Stay healthy. No. Thank you. That's not right either. I love you. I couldn't understand. Please. I suddenly recalled something with vivid clarity. It was a midsummer's night. The night when I had opened up to her about my past. I had to struggle to breathe.
正臣さんなら必ずできます。必ず
After finally getting the words out, her body lost all of its strength. The life rushed from her body like a fading fever. The reality that I did not want to accept was creeping up on me. I clenched my fists and moved my legs like a madman. Forward. Move forward. Run away. Someone was calling me, but I had to hurry. Masaomi, Masaomi. It wouldn't shut up. Huh?
止まれ。
Saburo grabbed my shoulders and shook me.
もうすぐ州境だ。
Hozuki turned to face us.
よく歩いたな。サイカもまだ死んではいないようだ。
In contrast to me, she was perfectly composed. So what? Hurry up and keep going. Hozuki shook her head silently.
よく見ろ。
She pointed. I could just barely see a light on the horizon.
あの光は。
軍だ。上層部の命令で一個連隊が州境を固めている。
What?
お前はこう思っている。そんなもの、ホウズキアリーの権限で道を開けさせろと。
Indeed. That was why we had taken her hostage.
しかし、そう甘くことは運ばない。知っての通り、私は移民の女。ホウズキの仮名を用いて成り上がり、腐った男どもを利用し、今の地位を築いた。法曹界での立場はとても危ういものになっている。
だからなんだよ。
お偉方は私を信用していないということだ。
Hozuki closed her eyes.
過去、私もお前たちと同じように試験を受け、反逆を志した。だが、企ては失敗し、捕らえられ、屈服した経歴がある。だから、上の連中はこう思っている。私が国家を裏切り、阿久津たちと結託して反旗を翻すのではないかと。
I couldn't believe it.
もちろん、そんなつもりはないがな。
おいおい天帝、この後に及んでハったりはよせよ。
私はすぐバレる嘘はつかない主義だ。はったりかどうかはこのまま道を進んでいけばわかる。
Hozuki's eyes were more solemn than I'd ever seen them.
私が最終試験の教官としてお前たちの構成に失敗したとなれば、奴らは簡単に銃口を向けてくるだろう。
Meaning that Hozuki held no value as a hostage, which would in turn mean that our escape route had vanished, spelling certain death for Minasan.
阿久津よ、
She questioned me amid our hopeless situation.
どうする？
What will I do?
もはや強制はしない。お前は私の想像を超えて強い男だった。
I frowned. Hozuki, who had always worn a faint yet confident smile, was now staring at me with a gentle expression.
お前が望めば軍属の医者にサイカミーナを預けることができる。
Temptation of the devil.
その代わり、お前は特別高等人、ホウズキ正臣として我々に従うのだ。お前の構成が完了したとみなされなければ、軍は動かん。
Hozuki Masaomi. I turned my head and looked at Minasan. She must have been drifting in and out of consciousness. Her breathing was rapid and shallow. Don't be ridiculous. If I assumed the name Hozuki Masaomi, she would be disappointed in me. There was no doubt about it. She had gone as far as to write a poem telling me to treasure my parents. If I become Hozuki's compatriot, how would I explain that to Minasan? How could I show my face to her? Hozuki had beaten Minasan with the ruthlessness of a devil. She was the very reason why Minasan was so close to death. I refuse. Don't want Minasan to look down on me.
では、サイカミーナは死ぬだけだな。
What do I do? Isn't there some better option? Saburo spoke up triumphantly.
諦めるなよ、正臣。
He offered a bold plan, one befitting his usual daring.
山越えだ。
ほう、その手もあるな。素晴らしい。よく気づいた。
Hozuki looked genuinely impressed.
俺たちがこの町に来た時みたいに州境の検問所を通らずに山を越えていくんだよ。
I gasped. Are you serious? The mountain he was talking about was 10,000 feet tall. Precipitous cliffs, weather that would grow violent without a moment's notice, and ferocious animals just itching to fill their empty stomachs awaited us there. Even specially trained special high-class individual cadets had died in that crossing.
大丈夫だって。一度踏破したじゃねえか。
But this time was different.
俺のチームは一人も死ななかったぜ。
You want us to take a baby and a seriously injured woman with us? After we have been confined in a prison for months? In this condition? That's simply not practical.
しかしその選択肢を選んだお前たちが助かる確率はゼロではないな。
Maybe they weren't zero, but they were pretty damn close. Minasan was already on the brink of death. The more I thought about it, the more insane Saburo's proposal sounded.
なあ正臣、頼む。ここで諦めるのか。こんな奴らに屈服してそれでいいのか。
I couldn't say anything.
思い出せって。ミーナちゃんを傷つけたのは誰だ。
I know that.
俺は許せないんだって。俺のダチを虫みてえに殺したこいつらが。
I know that.
天が見てるぞ。背中見せないでいいのかよ。クソったれに屈服する情けない親父になっていいのかよ。
I know that. My frustration made itself known.
なあ、正臣。
He approached me on unsteady legs. There were tears in his eyes. Apparently he had realized what I was planning.
しかし頭のいい阿久津ならわかるはずだな。
うるさい、黙ってろ。
I could imagine just how distraught he was.
頼むよ。諦めないでくれよ。
He even seemed violent. What should I do? Minasan was dying. She's going to die. I didn't have the time to drag things out. I closed my eyes. I recalled a variety of scenes. Minasan in the bathroom, looking embarrassed. Minasan standing with her chest out, letting the wind swallow her. Minasan refusing to surrender to violence. Ugh. I bit my lip. The taste of blood spread through my mouth.
正臣!
Hurry.
どうするのだ。
Hurry up and decide.
惑わされるな。
どうする。
頼む。
どうする。
諦めなければ必ず道は開ける。
どうするのだ。阿久津。
At the end of it all, there was a brilliant light. It pierced through the darkness of my thoughts. It was her smile. Just the thought of its innocence soothed me. And so I locked it away into the darkness as well. I closed my heart with all the determination I possessed. For eternity. I presume you are able to care for Ken as well, of course. I kneeled down next to Minasan and looked up at Hosuke. Saburo's face twisted in shock. I shall follow you. From here on out, I shall contribute to society as Hosuke Masaomi. I was surprised how easily the words came out. Hosuke looked at me appraisingly and nodded.
賢明だ。実に賢明だぞ。ほずき正臣よ。
A dreadful blur filled my vision.
ざけるな!
He grabbed onto my collar with a look of utmost rage.
なんだそれは! てめえ!
I seemed almost demonically calm in comparison to Saburo. You're the one telling jokes here, Saburo. Crossing the mountain? I cannot imagine that suggestion coming from someone in his right mind.
なんだと
It's too foolish. There's always a way as long as you don't give up. Why don't you take a look at reality? Leave the fairy tales for children. I froze my heart. How can you even understand my feelings to begin with? My lover is on the verge of death here.
お前にだってダチを殺された俺の気持ちはわからんだろうが
That is true. I do not. What of it?
それで
Saburo was trembling. Eventually he released me and just stood there.
弱いよお前全部無駄になっちまったじゃねえか
Indeed. I'm quite a disgraceful person. I surrendered like a pig, seeking salvation from my enemy. But what part of it is incorrect? No. What in this situation can be correct? You chose to advance forward, whereas I deemed that the wisest course of action was to retreat backward. That is all there is to it.
本気かよ本気でそう思っているのか
He was crying. It was plain that my betrayal had crushed him utterly.
樋口の今後の処遇についてだが
The gears in my head immediately started turning. Please, leave him to me. He might be a dangerous man, but it would be a waste to kill someone possessing such talent for electronics and such inventive ideas. Please, lend me that prison of yours. I will use it for a year or two and rehabilitate him. Bosuke closed her eyes and thought.
確かにお前だけでなく樋口が加わればより派閥の層が厚くなるある程度の時間を投資する価値はあるな
I will attend to him diligently and attempt to persuade him.
そして樋口をここで殺せばお前の忠誠心が揺らぐか
Please. A pig stood bowing to his former enemy. That pig was, of course, myself.
正臣
Saburo looked downward and quivered.
お前それはそうやって頭を下げるのは俺のためかそうなんだろうそうしないと俺は殺されちまうもんななんて不器用なやつなんだよでもよ俺は納得できねえよそんなの俺には納得できねえよ
Saburo fell to his knees, stifling his cries. He held Ken as he moaned. The baby's eyes met with mine. He looked at me straight on. He just stared at me, defiantly. Then why don't you try? I murmured something to the boy. Defeat your fool of a father. Ken said nothing. He did not cry. He did not wail. He merely stared at me silently.
では救援を呼ぶとしよう
Bosuke started walking toward the border. I was unable to move from my position. I looked up at the sky. The moonlight hurt my eyes. I could no longer even look at Minasan. She was too radiant for someone whose heart had vanished into the darkness. Whatever my reason, I had given up. Minasan, I no longer have the right to show my face to you. If you had been conscious, I'm sure you would have screamed in approval of Higuchi's plan. You would have scolded me for submitting to the woman who beat you. But were my actions so wrong? Was it so awful that I wished for you to live? When you awaken, You will surely think ill of me. But... I just want you to live. Is that so strange? Is it so odd to wish for your beloved to live on? No. I was just trying to make excuses. I can guess. When you awake, you will be confused. You will fall into despair because I am not with you. You might even start composing foreign music again. And perhaps even be sent to a concentration camp. Even if your life is spared here, in the end, I will be the one responsible for condemning you to a fate worse than death in a concentration camp. I spoke of helping you and protecting you, and yet I could do nothing. I am weak. I was so very weak. I just couldn't bear seeing you die right in front of my eyes. I couldn't handle it. That's all there is to it. Agony leaked forth from my lips. The roar of a beast issued forth from my chest. My wordless animalistic wailing pierced the very sky. The sky of the town where I had met her. And finally, dissipated. And my chest hurts, dude. Playing this hurts. Man, I hate that ending. Bro, that ending was too happy for what I'm feeling right now. Gosh, I feel like shit playing through that. I felt... I kind of felt I kind of felt the despair once I realized like what was gonna happen when Mina was writing the poetry. Actually, like my whole fingers, my whole entire like ends of my fingertips were really cold. I'm like, oh no, I'm starting to remember. Fuck. Fuck.
あれから長い年月が流れた。三郎の説得には5年かかった。その間、何度も心が揺れそうになった。三郎と再び立ち上がるべきではないか。ほおずきアリーの目を盗み、逃亡するべきではないか。しかし私は根気よく三郎を説得し続けた。牢獄の中で寝食を共にし、時には罵られ、時には殴り合いながらも教訓を進めた。従わなければ三郎の命はなかったからだ。頑なに服従を拒む三郎が牢獄を出たのは子供のためだった。剣の顔が見たい。奴はそう言った。決して我々に屈服したわけではなかった。その一言で私はある予感を覚えた。そう遠くない将来、私はこいつを殺すことになるだろうと。そしてその予感は現実となった。死に際、三郎は私に謝った。私の打ち込んだ弾を胸に血を吐きながらひたすら謝った。俺は間違っていた。でもお前も間違っている。でもそれでもすまない。三郎の最後の言葉を分かったような顔でうなずきながらとの目を刺した。謝られる筋合いはなかった。だが理屈ではなく、私は剣を森田健一として育て上げた。剣は救いようのないほどに弱々しい男だった。こんな子供に未来を託して死んでいった三郎が哀れに思えた。しかし最終的に足元を救われたのは私だった。頭の悪い男だった。絶望的な状況で無駄だと分かりながら進んできた。まっすぐに向かってきた。私は立ち止まり、剣は進んできた。それだけのことだった。
Relentless black rain continued to dominate the landscape. After refusing Sakuma, Hosuke left his office and entered his private car.
強制収容所へ。
He informed the driver. The black luxury car awakened with a hum and tore off into the dark city streets. It would take them about an hour to reach the concentration camp from the suburbs. And during this time, Hosuke would not stop ruminating. He weighed the actions he was about to take against logic and reason. They will be disposed of. The concentration camp was to be demolished, and its inhabitants were to be disposed of alongside it. He planned to unleash the gas on them. The state's governor had already handed down his approval. Said governor was currently attending a summit outside of the country. As such, Hozuki was unable to contact him regarding a postponement of these events. His failure during his management of the final exam had cost him a great deal of support and influence. Members of Congress, bureaucrats, chief justices, executives of large corporations, and even his personally trained public security police had cut all ties with him. Hozuki had always been alone. Certainly, he had forged relationships based around common interests, but he had never had someone to call a friend, someone to open himself up to. The camp was to be closed the following morning. Only a few hours remained until then. Hozuki had no time to lose. Not as long as a certain woman's name appeared in the camp's registry. He slowly took out his cell phone and dialed a number. He put it up to his ear and waited for the recipient to pick up. As soon as they did, Hozuki spoke up.
Morita ka.
He could tell the person on the other line was shocked. Mr. Hozuki? His tone was as restless as ever. This is rather sudden. Morita's tension showed in his voice. Hozuki spoke.
どうだ
Huh?
どうだと聞いている
Morita panicked. He stammered nonsensically for some time before replying. I'm doing fine. Still living in this old country town. Thanks to you. We're getting by without the state's attention. Having a lot of fun too. He laughed. Being quick to engage in pointless chatter had always been a fault of Morita's.
樋口リリ子はどうだ
One-chan. She's doing just fine. A little too fine, actually. She's full throttle all the way every day. I don't know what to do with her.
そうか
Hozuki continued his inquiry.
大根屋光弘は
Toka is as irritable as ever. I seriously have no idea what goes on in her head. Looks like she's starting to get serious about becoming a cook at least. Sachi as well. You know, there's the whole thing with Mana. She paints up a storm every day.
そうか
He paused. His heart ached as the next name passed his lips.
日向夏美は
She held a certain resemblance to her. A certain resemblance to the girl who had not given an inch to the violence which had tormented her in that prison. Nachan. Yeah, we're,
お前と
well, we're kind of thinking of getting married. Oh man, this is embarrassing. He sounded happy. More than anything, he believed in a future filled with a hope that so much as a single doubt. He was happy to the point of sounding like an idiot.
そうか
Hozuki simply nodded in the face of such dizzying happiness. Do you need something? Morita's tone suddenly changed. What is it? If you're calling me, then it's gotta be something big. His voice was urgent. It was obvious that he wanted to press the issue further. Morita's tone held genuine concern for the man who had abused him and his friend So. Don't tell me there's... That was just the kind of man he was. Some sort of trouble. He was a kind man. The fingers holding the phone trembled faintly. Hozuki bit his lip and spoke.
母親に会いたくはないか
Before Morita, Higuchi-ken had been placed in Saburo's care. He was raised in the facilities provided by Hozuki Ari. By the time he was old enough to remember, he was living with his father in that country town. There was no way he would remember her. My mother, Morita asked.
会いたいか
Of course I do.
そうか
He gazed outside the window. There was still no sign of dawn in the jet black sky. The spectacle brought to mind memories of the past. He had not seen her ever, even once, since they had parted at the border of that town. He had not seen her, but he had desired to know about her. He had remained informed about her ever since coming out of that prison and becoming a special high-class individual. After her life was saved, her obligation had been cancelled. Unfortunately, she was soon burdened with it for the same offense once more. Hozuki could not bear to show his face to her. He could not bear to become this high-class individual in charge of her. For he too was weak. He walled off his weak mind and occupied himself with advancing through society. Time continued to pass, but her obligation was not to be cancelled. Hozuki could not forget it even if he tried. The crime of betraying her would torment him throughout eternity. It would seem that not even the Saika family name could protect her forever. Immediately before Morita Kenichi's final exam began, he found that she was placed in a concentration camp. Mr. Hozuki, Morita was calling out to me. To him. The man who surpassed him and left from his teachings was calling out to him. Hozuki cleared his throat, taking great care with his words. He spoke darkly, coolly, not in the manner one would expect a father to use with his son.
母に会わせてやろう。必ずな。
He terminated the call and turned off his phone. As he placed it in his breast pocket, his hand brushed against a lump of cold iron. Iron as cold as his heart. Iron waiting for its chance to fire. Soon. It'll be over soon.
お待ちください。
どけ。
いかに宝月先生とはいえ、時間外の接見は許されません。
接見ではない。
Gunfire rang out. A security guard fell bleeding at the entrance to the concentration camp. His body collapsed against the rain-slicked asphalt unmoving. This was no interview. It was an invasion. A break-in. The map of the facility was engraved into his head. He broke into a run, heading for the building where they had confined the prisoners. The alarm did not sound. He increased the speed of his sprint, ignoring the rain. A spotlight fell up ahead. He jumped into the shadow of the tree to avoid it. Everything was going according to plan. The patrolling security guards turned back and left. They showed no sign of realizing what was going on. The entrance was before him, with a surveillance booth nearby. The two security guards inside seemed very surprised before they died. The sound of gunfire was drowned out by the rain. He caught his breath and began to run once more. It wouldn't be long now. He chastised his body for its loss of strength. Why? He could remember his halcyon days perfectly even now. Her face drifted into his thoughts, adorned by the same smile as always. Will she forgive me? Run. I want to see her. Just run. I want to see her and make up for what I've done. Akutsu Masaomi ran with all he had toward the woman whom he had adored with all he had. With each step, the wheel of time spun backwards just a little more. Soon though, the wheel came to a stop. A glaring light caught his eyes. It came from a direction he thought impossible, accompanied by the chime of the alarm. Where were they lurking? Footsteps quickly surrounded Hozuki. When he finally regained his vision, he was greeted by a group of men in uniform, each and every one with a gun trained upon him.
目を覚ませ、阿久津。
There was a woman in front of him. She stepped forward through the line of guards. She spoke with a frosty voice that he could never forget. She had not lost her power, even after the turn of events which had led foreigners to be treated as little more than slaves. Though she had aged, Ari Rulian Hozuki's cold smile was alive and well.
やはり現れたか。
Officially, they were a married couple. They rarely had occasion to see each other. At present, she was supposed to have been acting as a governor in a southern country, supervising the foreign people there.
バカなまではやめるのだ、阿久津。
She still referred to him as Akutsu, perhaps to remind Masaomi of his crime, and to forever bring shame to the name Akutsu.
どうしてここに？
この収容所が撤去されると知って慌てて帰国した。お前の顔を見たかったが、お前は私のことが大嫌いだろ。だから待ち伏せすることにしたのだよ。
それは間一髪でしたね。
He turned his head and casually surveyed his surroundings. Kozuki Ari's private soldiers proved an impenetrable wall.
なあ、阿久津よ。先の特別高等人の試験で失敗したからといってやけを起こすことはあるまい。
She smiled and tried to coerce him with her eyes. She had always been like that.
考え直せ。
She never changed.
お前には積み上げてきたものがある。切り開いてきた道がある。それは間違った道だったのかもしれんが、今さら後戻りなどできまい。
Says who, bitch? That's wrong. Kozuki understood it all clearly now. He was not going back. He was advancing. His best friend had spoken of opening a path for the next generation, and his son had proved it with his own actions.
人の道は結局輪のようにつながっているのです。
Kozuki Ari looked curious. This witch could never comprehend a statement like this. It would seem that her statement about not being able to bear children was the truth. A feeling nearly akin to pity filled Akutsu Masaomi's chest, and he fell silent.
お前らしくないぞ、阿久津。お前はもっと冷静で頭の切れる男ではなかったのか。考えてもみろ。サイカミーナはすでにお前と同じ中年だぞ。強制収容所に入れられた以上、腕の一本や腎臓の一つはないに決まっている。おぞましいじゃないか。そんな女のために全てを投げ打って強制収容所に不法侵入するなんて全くもって賢くない。その結果が今の状況だ。豪雨の中、武器を持った男たちに取り囲まれ、女を救うどころか一歩も前に進むことができない。いや、お前のことだ。せめて憎き私ぐらいは殺してみせるかもしれない。しかし私を道連れにしたとしても待っているのは確実な死だ。お前とサイカミーナの阿久津よ、考え直せ。時期を待つのだ。豚は肥やしてから食うのではなかったのか。犬死にに何の意味がある。頭のいいお前ならわかるはずだろう。
なるほど。聞けば聞くほどあなたのおっしゃる通りだ。強制収容所に入れられた中年の女を救うため全てを投げ打つなどおぞましい。豪雨の中、大勢の武器を持った男たちに囲まれ女を救うどころか一 とも進むことができない。せめて憎きあなたを殺せたとしても、その先に待っているのは確実な死だ。時期を待つべきだ。犬死にに意味はない。頭のいい私ならわかるはずだと。そこをどけ、豚ども。私はこれから最愛の人に会いに行かねばならんのだ。
The final test of a leader is that he leaves behind in other men the conviction and the will to carry on. I see. Well, how'd you like that? Was his story better than Ken's? I'd say it was a lot more realistic. Because the Sunflower Girls, they are too perfect. How Masaomi acted was definitely realistic. How Ken acted was actually realistic too. It was just the people near him are way too perfect. And he wasn't punished enough for what he did. Compared to Masaomi anyway, right? Masaomi was... wow. Well, then again, why compare apples to oranges, right? Why compare their stories? They're different for their own things. Both are good for their own things. They share some similarities, so what? I love them both. I truly forgot about this. Like I said, I remember what happened near the end there, and it really was heart-wrenching for me to read through Masaomi surrendering to fucking Ozuki Ari, or whatever her name was. Fuck her. Man. What she said does make sense though. You know, about when she was talking about the only children or people passionate about fairy tales would believe in someone like her. That's actually true. And you know what? I take pride in having the thoughts of a children and still having my thoughts not fully mature. I hold pride in it. And hopefully I can still feel this way 20 years in the future, 30 years, until I die. Hopefully I won't forget though. But if I played this game once every 10 years, I think I won't forget. Right? This has been super enjoyable for me. And hopefully for the people that's watching too. It's definitely like tickling a lot of my childish hearts in the right, like, just in the right spots. Sorry if I'm just blabbering at the end here. Like, I'm just really trying to say my thoughts. I enjoyed this, and this was a journey. 10 years ago, I was playing this alone. I didn't have anyone to talk to about this story. 10 years in the future, YouTube's a thing. Online friends are a thing. And if I can talk to this about this game, you know, I'm glad. I'm glad to share this experience with everyone that's watching. Because this is something I held close to my heart. And the people that I talk to that don't play visual novels, they can't really seem to understand why I hold this game like close to my heart. Enough of me bantering, I guess. Thank you all for watching. This has been an amazing series. I'll probably play it again 10 years in the future. Compared to Gessenjo no Mao, I would say this is superior. But Gessenjo no Mao is a lot more thrilling. I'll see you guys on the next playthrough, which might just be rants. That one I also hold dear to my heart too, but for different reasons, you know. This one is definitely a lot more emotional for me. So, see ya.